Imagine being the king of an industry for decades, dominating the market with products that everyone wants to own, and then losing it all in just a few years because of one fundamental miscalculation. This is not a hypothetical scenario. It happened to a company that literally invented the cell phone and once controlled over 20% of the global mobile market. This is the cautionary tale of Motorola, the brand that changed the world and then failed to change with it. The fall of a mobile legend in 2004, Motorola released the Razr, a device that revolutionized the mobile phone industry. It was sleek, stylish, and had a clamshell design that made users feel like they were holding the future in their hands. The phone was an immediate sensation, selling 130 million units and becoming the best-selling flip phone of all time. When the Razr arrived on the market, it was priced at around $600, but as production ramped up, prices dropped significantly. By summer of 2006, Motorola had sold 50 million units. The company had captured an impressive 22% market share in mobile phones. The company was unstoppable. Executives celebrated their dominance. Investors felt secure. Employees believed the company would reign forever. The Razr appeared in celebrity hands. It became a status symbol. Motorola seemed absolutely untouchable, but something critical was happening in the technology world, and Motorola's leadership missed it entirely. In 2007, Apple launched the iPhone, a device that fundamentally transformed what a phone could be. Steve Jobs and his team created a pocket-sized computer with a touchscreen, intuitive software, and an ecosystem of applications that users could download instantly. The phone featured a revolutionary glass display, a built-in web browser that actually worked properly, and a camera that improved upon existing phone cameras. Google simultaneously developed Android, offering manufacturers an open operating system that rival companies could use to build competing smartphones. Meanwhile, BlackBerry was capturing the attention of business professionals with its sophisticated operating system, security features, and that iconic physical keyboard. The smartphone revolution had begun, and it was moving at lightning speed. Within months, industry observers realized that the future of mobile phones belonged to touchscreens and apps, not physical keyboards and limited functionality. Here is where Motorola made its catastrophic mistake. Rather than pivoting aggressively towards smartphones and touchscreen technology, the company remained emotionally attached to its past success. Motorola executives believed the Razr would continue to dominate because it had worked for 3 years. They were in love with a product that was becoming obsolete. The company continued to pump variations of the Razr to market, releasing dozens of different models in quick succession instead of focusing resources on perfecting one groundbreaking smartphone. In fact, Motorola was simultaneously trying to work on dozens of phone models at once, spreading its engineering talent and financial resources paper thin, while Apple was pouring all its resources into getting the iPhone right, perfecting every detail, every interaction, every feature. Motorola was spreading itself thin across multiple product lines and outdated technologies. By 2008, a report revealed that 24% of new iPhone owners in the United States had switched directly from the Razr. How success became a prison. The tragedy of Motorola is that success became a prison. The Razr was so profitable and popular that leadership struggled to psychologically abandon it. This is a psychological trap that has destroyed many companies over history. When something is working, when profits are rolling in quarter after quarter, the human brain naturally resists dramatic change. Management teams convince themselves that the current business model is still viable. They tell themselves they have more time to adapt than they actually do. They tell themselves they can dominate both the old market and the new market simultaneously, which almost never happens. Motorola believed this narrative, and it cost them everything. Leaders were comfortable, satisfied, and unwilling to cannibalize their own success story by promoting untested technologies. The internal challenges made the problem exponentially worse. Motorola's hardware technology background meant the company struggled with software and user experience design. The company had been a hardware-focused manufacturer for decades, and its phone interfaces were considered complex and clunky compared to what Apple and Google offered. Different Motorola phones alternated between Linux and Windows-based operating systems, creating inconsistency. Motorola's leadership kept changing hands, with multiple CEOs arriving and departing in rapid succession, which disrupted strategic planning and created confusion about the company's true direction. When you combine internal division with leadership instability, you get a company that cannot move decisively in any direction. As the smartphone market exploded between 2007 and 2011, Motorola's market share collapsed dramatically from 21% to just 2%. The company that had invented the cell phone was now a minor player in an industry it created. Think about what that means. A company that had dominated for decades, that had the resources, the manufacturing expertise, the brand recognition, and the distribution channels, simply failed to compete. From 2007 to 2009 alone, Motorola lost $4.3 billion. Stock prices that had peaked above $94 per share crashed downward, eventually reaching just 65 cents. The market capitalization that had reached $42 billion had evaporated. By 2011, the company was forced to split into two separate entities: Motorola Mobility for consumer phones and Motorola Solutions for network infrastructure. Lessons from destruction: what destroyed Motorola was not a single bad decision in isolation. It was the fundamental decision to prioritize short-term profits over long-term innovation. It was the choice to trust yesterday's success instead of anticipating tomorrow's market disruption. It was the decision to defend past glory instead of building new glory. And most importantly, it was the failure of leadership to understand that in technology industries, change is not optional. It is absolutely inevitable. Every company eventually faces disruption. The question is not whether disruption will come, but whether leadership will respond to it or deny it. The smartphone revolution did not sneak up on Motorola unexpectedly. It was visible on the horizon. Competitors were signaling their intentions years in advance. Consumer preferences were clearly migrating toward touchscreen devices and intuitive interfaces. Analysts were writing extensively about the coming shift. The market data existed for anyone willing to look at it honestly. Yet Motorola's executives chose to ignore these warnings. They explicitly dismissed smartphones as niche products. They convinced themselves the Razr's success would insulate them from disruption. They believed they could catch up whenever they felt ready. These were catastrophic errors in judgment. Companies have fallen into this exact trap repeatedly throughout business history. Kodak invented the digital camera but refused to embrace it because film photography was their core business, generating massive profits. Blockbuster had the opportunity to acquire Netflix for just $50 million, but rejected the deal because they believed physical video rental stores would dominate forever. Sears refused to invest in e-commerce development, believing customers would always prefer shopping in physical stores. Yahoo passed on investing in Google when it could have acquired a significant stake in what became the most powerful search engine on Earth. Xerox invented graphical user interfaces and personal computers, but failed to commercialize them properly. These companies had wealth, market position, and legendary brand recognition, yet none of that protected them from their own strategic blindness and institutional resistance to change. Good brands became irrelevant. Market leadership disappeared. Shareholders lost fortunes. The difference between companies that survive disruption and companies that fail is deceptively simple. Leaders who embrace change and act decisively on it win, and leaders who resist to change and cling to past success lose. Apple succeeded not because it invented the touchscreen or the smartphone concept. Those ideas existed before. It succeeded because it listened to what consumers wanted and invested everything into getting the implementation exactly right. Samsung and Google succeeded because they understood that the future belonged to Android and built incredible devices around that platform. Motorola failed because it listened to its own success story instead of listening to the market. Today, Motorola still exists under the ownership of Lenovo, but it never reclaimed its position as an industry leader. The brand survives primarily on nostalgia and memories. People remember the Razr with fondness, recalling how revolutionary it felt. But Motorola phones are no longer aspirational devices that people desire. The company that once defined what a cool phone looked like now scrambles to stay relevant in a market dominated by companies that made the right choices when it mattered most. The collapse of Motorola teaches us a profound lesson. Size, brand recognition, and market dominance offer no protection against irrelevance. The only thing that truly protects a company is the willingness to disrupt itself before someone else does. It is the humility to acknowledge that yesterday's formula will not work forever. It is the courage to abandon profitable products to chase uncertain futures. It is the vision to see beyond the present moment. Motorola had all the advantages, all the resources, all the manufacturing capacity, and all the opportunity to remain great. It simply made the choice not to, and that choice cost it everything.